Cam Ward was one of the most sought-after players in the transfer portal this offseason. The price tag was very high, but at least so far for Miami, they may have gotten the steal of a lifetime. Now, there were some concerns about Ward's ability to take care of the ball, his willingness to improvise and take risks through the air, and how would that translate with him going to Coral Gables and playing in the ACC? Well, the numbers so far are elite. He's thrown for almost 1,500 yards with 14 touchdowns to just 2 picks. He's completing over 70% of his passes. On top of that, he's averaging almost 7.5 yards per run while only getting sacked twice. He brought all his good qualities to Miami and seemingly didn't bring any of the bad ones, at least not yet. But the most impressive thing that I've seen when I watched the tape isn't just the numbers, but how easy he makes the game look. It feels like everybody else is moving in slow motion to him, not just physically, but mentally. One could say he almost looks bored. Even on the plays where he has to leave the pocket and create, he doesn't look rushed or strained. It looks natural. He actually shares some very similar qualities to Patrick Mahomes. He can throw off platform very easily. He can see the whole field, and he may not be the fastest or jump the highest, but he has enough wiggle to be effective running and dodging pass rushers in the backfield while also keeping his eyes downfield. Travis Hunter, in my opinion, is the best overall player in college football, but I don't know how you can't say Cam Ward hasn't been the best quarterback in college football so far. Don't be surprised if Miami rolls Virginia Tech on Friday, but looking ahead, they have the quarterback to win the whole thing. And if I'm an NFL GM, Cam Ward should be the first quarterback taken if I get the chance. Can he keep it up? We will see. But so far, dude's been balling. I'm going to bring in former Michigan quarterback David Cone, my brother, former Western State Colorado wide receiver Blaine Crane. And look, I mean, you look at Shedeur Sanders having to deal with an offensive line that's still progressing. You look at Quinn Ewers, Dylan Gabriel, and them seem like they're starting to put together again out in Oregon. But David, I mean, as somebody that played in the Big Ten at quarterback, Cam Ward makes it look so effortless, and it looks like he has grown even from last year at Washington State when turnovers may have been an issue. Do you think that's because he has more confidence in the guys around him? Maybe he's not having to force the action so much?
That's a good question. I think he's just grown as a player, too. He's playing at such a high level right now, and it's not just like the wild playmaking abilities. We knew he had that, but to be able to make throws and to move the chains consistently is what I'm really impressed with him so far. And if you're a college football fan that didn't watch him play at Washington State, it has to seemingly come out of nowhere a little bit what he's doing right now at Miami. But I've been impressed with him for several seasons now. The talent around him at Miami that you're talking about with Restrepo, and it's not just an offensive thing too, right? You benefit when the defense is good too. That helps the confidence as well. It helps him, be able to make plays outside the pocket. And it's not like he hadn't beaten anybody yet. That's why the opener against Florida was so important. South Florida's a good football team. My only question with him coming over was, will he force the ball? Will he turn the football over by trying to be the playmaker at all times? So far, 14 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions, highest completion percentage of his career so far. Obviously, he got big games coming up. We got to keep an eye throughout the season. But right now, playing at such a high level, and as we sit here, he's the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman.
And Blaine, I want to make sure and give you credit. You brought this up when you came over to my house, and we were watching Miami play earlier in the year. And we're just watching him, and he, jogging to the sidelines, kind of just looking around. It almost looks like he's bored, but like in the Thanksgiving game when one of the older cousins is playing with the younger kids, and it's just, having fun. He's not having to go full speed. I want you to talk about Cam Ward, but do you think this Miami team is good enough to win a national championship?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I have to see more from their defense. I think their secondary is good, but not great. Number 38 from South Florida, I can't remember his name, but tore them up the entire game. They stayed in man the entire game, too. But I do want to go back. Before the season started, we talked about Heisman odds. And I said on this show that Cam Ward, from an odds standpoint, would be a good bet. And I took that, and it's looking pretty good right now. But Cam Ward, to me, I think is the best quarterback in college football, and I don't know how close it is. Everything he's doing right now, and you bring up those 2 interceptions, one against Florida was true. The second one was against USF that threw it to a wide receiver.
And he dropped it, yeah.
Did
you watch
that? Should be a
It
fumble.
almost looked like a lateral.
Yeah.
He caught it and
then
pitched it.
basically gave it to the other
Did
guy.
his knee hit? Did he catch it? And then when he was running,
No, he just
the ball?
just catch. It was a wet day. It's South Florida.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
raining.
I remember
It
it.
came out, and it was the first drive. Trust me, it was the guy who had Miami 16.5. I was worried that these guys were going to throw the entire game. But right now, you look at Cam Ward, and I don't know a box he doesn't check. And it feels like he's playing what? He's playing free, right? And you got to give a lot of credit to that to Mario Cristobal
Shannon Dawson, yeah.
and that staff for what they're doing there. And even at Washington State, he had talent. I mean, Josh Kelly, you had 2 NFL wide receivers, you had an NFL running back. So this is nothing new to Cam Ward. But what you see with guys, especially come from Washington State to a Miami or to an ACC school or SEC school, you have to see him catch up with the what? The speed of the game, because it's just different. Cam Ward right now, through almost every snap of college football, hasn't had one to where he's looked sped up, that he's looked uncomfortable.
Yeah. And the 2 guys, because we got asked, obviously they're going to have Dylan Gabriel up there for the Heisman odds. I think he was leading it. And Milroe was up there and Quinn was up there. Who are some guys in the back end? And we said 2 guys, Cam Ward and Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
And I think both those guys, because Jackson, I know Ole Miss, they're going to get into the meat of their schedule. We're going to find out a lot more. But Lane's keeping Jackson in to put up big numbers. Those are 2 guys. I wonder what Dart's at right now on the Heisman odds. But those are 2 guys.
He's second.
He's second.
Cam
So the
Ward's
2 guys we said.
Cam Ward's plus 450
Yeah.
and Jackson Dart's plus 500. And Jackson Dart's only missing playing against high-level competition right now.
Yeah,
That's the only thing he's
and
missing.
he's got a little bit of a portfolio before that'll give him some grace because we've seen him play in big games. But no, we're going to keep monitoring that. The poll today, Blaine.
Yes, the poll today is who's the best college quarterback, best QB in college football, Cam Ward, Shadur Sanders, Nico, and other.
Yeah,
and look, I couldn't put everybody, the Jalen Milroes, the Quinn Ewers, they fall in that other category. So they only do 4 options.
Yeah, and put in the chat, if you are going to vote other, who is the other quarterback? Just put their name in there or their last name. We're smart enough to be able to figure it out. We are off to Tuscaloosa this weekend.
Yeah,
boys.
we are.
Live
Yeah, we are.
streaming that Alabama-Georgia game from the Innisfree Bar. We're going to be hanging out Friday around town, doing some interviews with fans. Would love to see you out there. If you get a chance, if you're not going in the game, head over to Innisfree, watch it with us. We're going to be broadcasting. We're going to have a great time like we normally do. Excited to see everybody there, and it should be a heck of a game. But, David, that's not the only great game. We mentioned Cam Ward and Miami playing Virginia Tech. We talked a little bit about Virginia Tech yesterday. Drones has struggled a lot more than I thought he was. Coming into this year, I thought maybe we'd see some growth from him. We knew he could run, could see if he could make that jump passing-wise. The vertical game, especially against Rutgers, he had guys open. He wasn't able to find them. But Virginia Tech struggling to stop the run under Brent Pry. Remember, he came over from Penn State. That has been the most surprising part for me. And I'm trying to find a way that Virginia Tech hangs in this game. I think it's a 19.5-point spread right now. Obviously, Miami's the favorite. I'm just not seeing it. I think Miami, we're going to get to early bets, but I don't think you'd be crazy to sprinkle some on Miami minus 19.5 right now. Not just because Virginia Tech has struggled to stop the run, but if Kyron Drones is going to turn the ball over and miss wide open receivers, Miami's athletic enough and physical enough on defense to shut down that run game and put them in a bad spot.
Yeah, and I was really looking at the South Florida game. Blaine, we were talking about this. You really liked Miami from the jump to cover and to win big, and I was looking at it like, hey, South Florida, one, they're a good football team. Is this kind of an opponent who's down there in Miami's territory in South Florida where, it's just a lot of these kids went to high school together. It ends up being uglier and chippier than maybe we thought, and it was close early on, but Miami ended up taking care of business. Now when I look at, a Virginia Tech team that hasn't stopped the run very well, I'm thinking in my mind, does Miami almost use this as an opportunity to try and run the ball even more, to get that to be a strength for them moving forward? I'm not saying that they're just so much better than Virginia Tech, they don't have to play their style of football to win. I'm not saying that so much. But can you look at it as an opponent like, this is what they're deficient at on defense. That's an area that we could improve on, turning around, handing the football off, running downhill, not making Cam Ward just, throw the football around or feel like he has to make a bunch of plays on the outside, and try and beat Virginia Tech like that, because that's a skill set they may need moving forward. Do you think that's an approach they may take on offense?
Well, I don't know how you don't when you got a running back like Damian Martinez, right? And you're Mario Cristobal, you're an offensive line guy, right? You're the head coach, and it protects Cam Ward. Every quarterback in the world, I think, would love to have a solid run game because everything is built off that, not just being able to throw the play action pass, but it actually protects you. It slows down the pass rush. It does multiple things for you. And Miami, there's going to be some games where maybe they're not able to have all the success with Cam Ward finding Restrepo and some of the other weapons that he has. You look at the tight ends that they have with McCormick, who's like 40 years old. They're going to have to be able to line up and run the ball. If you want to beat the Georgias of the world, if you want to beat the Ohio States of the world, you can't just Dr. Seuss your way at quarterback to do it. You've got to have a run game. You've got to be balanced. That's how you beat teams with an even roster as yours or better. But in no way, shape, form, or fashion. And I want to give credit to Shannon Dawson, the offensive coordinator there, a guy that I'm sure is going to be on the Broyles award list when we start voting at some point. He is going to play to his team's strength. I don't think they're going to go out there and say, you know what, we want Cam Ward to win the Heisman, so we're going to do something that maybe Virginia Tech can stop. They're going to try and run it up on the ground, and that'll set up everything else. Take your shots. Eat your dessert later. I don't know how you wouldn't if I'm Miami.
Yeah, but the thing about me is I never want to approach a game just kind of, look, we're going to do this. Like, no matter what the defense gives us, we're going to do this. I think you need to approach it. It's like, it gets to the same argument kind of when I think about it. It's like, it's transition in basketball, right? Sometimes it's a clock slate. You want that big guy to take the shot. Okay, but I want you to run the fast break correctly. That's what I want. When it comes to an offense, I want us to run what the defense is giving us. If that's running the ball, if that's passing the ball, you can go back to last week against South Florida. Does it feel like Miami threw the ball a lot? Yeah, maybe. They ended up with 180 rushing yards. So it's a timely thing. From an offensive coordinator standpoint, I would call based on what the defense is getting us, not for us just to get better at something for future in the season.
I guess so. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. Miami did rush for 144 against Florida, and that's a bunch of rushing yards in the opening season game. Cam Ward threw for 385. That's what that game dictated. That's what that game called for. Is Miami cool if they win a game where it's the opposite way? If they can rush, you also have to look at what the other team's good at versus what they're bad at and go in with a game. You can switch it up all you want based off what the defense is giving you, but you have to go in with some sort of plan. Is Miami cool saying, yeah, I think we can rush for 385 in this game, and if that means Cam only throws for 144, we're fine with that? Yeah,
well, and Blaine, I totally understand what you're saying. There's a reason, a lot of times even in college now, a quarterback has two plays, right, that he can adjust. But a lot of it is the personnel that you send in the game and where the personnel lines up. If I'm going to stay in 11 and 12 personnel and I'm going to go ace and have a tight end on each side, or I'm going to go ace hip and have one in the hip or whatever, the defense is going to have a lot of guys in the box and safeties mugged down because that's the personnel that you're giving them. So to me, it's not as much, all right, hey, even if they load the box, we're going to run it. Well, if I go 12 personnel, their ass going to have a lot of people in the box and it's going to be tight. Are we going to go in there and run a lot of 10 personnel? Like, where do you like your matchups? That's what it's about. Football is about matchups. But if they're going to match your personnel, hey, they're going two tights, it's 12, 12, 12. Let's get our guys in here. We want to match. And do you say, all right, even in 12 personnel, even when we're tight, we're going to try and run the ball and see if we can have some success. And if that doesn't work, we can play action out of it, or we can go 10 personnel or 11 personnel and brush a tight end out and go tray open, or trips closed or something like that. So, or tray closed, I'm sorry. But when you look at the way you're going to go into it, the mindset's got to be, we ought to be able to run it. If we go 12 personnel or we go 11 and we call gap scheme run, we ought to be better than you are at pushing the ball forward. I think that's kind of a litmus test, a little bit of just taking what's there, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with you at some point. It's just I don't want to get into the fact we're just going to do it just to do it.
No, I'm not.
I don't want to do that because if that's anything you're teaching an offense, what bad habits. We're not going to do that. I want to walk into the mindset that we can get whatever we want from these guys. We can get it through the air. We can get it through the ground. We can get it afterwards at the restaurant. It doesn't even matter. As an offense, I want everything is open. Everything in the playbook is open.
Hey, what's up, YouTube? Appreciate you guys being here. If you get a second, hit that subscribe button. Doesn't take a lot of effort, just determination. And that's what we want.